Hi, I'm Luis Sanchez. In today's tutorial, we'll talk about Identity Management Framework. We hope that by the end of this video, you will learn how to add the framework to your project, search for ad hoc groups as well as users, and add or remove the user from the member list of the group. For this tutorial, I will be using an app called Group Management, as you can see here. This application shows a list of ad hoc groups in the first screen. If I select one group, it displays the detail of that group. As you can see, a list of members, as well as the owner of the group in a big picture. If I click on the plus button, a screen shows me to search for a user. If I do a quick search, I can find a user in the company's LDAP, and also I can add the user to that group. Now let's see how to design this application. In my first screen, I have the list of all the ad hoc groups, and I'm accomplished this by calling a method called getAllGroups with completion. In the second screen, I have the group details. For this to happen, I'm calling three different methods. One is for the mass group object, which is getGroups_by_object_id. This method will get all the details of the group. The other one is to get the owner detail. And for this to happen, I'm using the mass user object, and I'm calling a method called getUser_by_object_id. So here I will get the owner of the group, as you can see, and I will get details of the owner as well as the picture and so on. For the other one, I'm doing a loop of all the members of the group, and I'm getting details of each one. That's the only way I can display the pictures of the members. In the last screen, we do a search for a user using a class method from the mass user object called getUser_with_username. And later on, we add that user as a member using an instance method from the mass group object. Let's open Xcode and see how it's done. First, let's add the framework to our project in Xcode. Let me open my folder here, Mass Identity Management Framework, drag and drop into the projects folder in Xcode, copy items if needed, as you already know, finish, and that's it. Alright, so let's create a new method to list those groups. You will notice that in our SDK, if I want to call a method related to groups, that method will be inside the mass groups object. The same way, if I want to call a method related to user, that method will be inside the mass user object. So let's just use the mass group object. And there is a method called getAllGroups with completion. I can also use other one like getGroup_by_object_id, by name, and so on and so forth. But let's use the first one. As you can see, with just one line of code, I was able to call a method that collects all the ad hoc groups on the server side. I will have as a result an array. The sample app uses a different approach, as you can see here. This app is using a method called getGroup_by_filterRequest. It's a little bit different than the getAllGroups with completion, but the end result is the same. The getAllGroups_by_filterRequest, we need to create a filter request, as you can see here. In this request, I can set the sorting, in this case ascendant, and then the attribute will be display name. The result will be the same as you can see in the sample app, new group 1, 2, and 3. Let's change a little bit. Let's add another filter to this filter request, and the filter will be a member which must have the name ideas. If I run this app again, you'll see that the list of results will be a little bit different. As you can see, we have only one group as a result, and this group has ideas as a member. Now let's go to the group details. For the group detail, we will analyze a class called group details table view controller, as you can see here. This class has a variable of the type mass group called selected group. This variable will contain the group we selected in the group list view. So let me open the group detail table view controller.m file, and let's go to the very end. So let's pretend I need to create a new method to get the group detail. I'll just call group details. As we know, all the methods related to groups are inside the mass group object. So let me call mass group, get, and immediately I can see a method that fits exactly what I'm looking for. Get group by object ID. This method receives as a parameter the object ID of the group. Once I already have a group selected, I can use that variable and just pass the object ID of the group that I selected. Very simple. One line of code again, and I'm able to get all the details of the group. This method will search for the group which has this object ID. So now let's pretend we would like to get the owner of this group. Let me create another method. So here is a little bit different. The owner, it's a user. So the method I'm looking for, it might be inside the mass user object and not inside the mass group. Let's see. Mass user, get user by object ID, get user by username. As you can see, there are many other methods I can use to withdraw the user object. The one that you use for now is the username. Get user by username. And here I already have my selected group owner. Perfect. Very simple, right? So as you can see, we are able now to get a user based in the name of the user. I don't know if you have noticed, but we are already going into the third screen, which is a search for user in the LDAP of the company. So let's pretend that we found our user, which is the owner of the group. And let's say that I want to add that user to be a member of the group. Well, I already have the selected group object. This is an instance variable of the type mass group, as you already know. Here I have a method called add member. So for any group, I can add a member to a group. As well, I can remove the member. It's very simple. So let's say that I want to add a member, and that member must be a mass user object. Well, that's perfect for us because here I already have as a result a mass user object. So I just need to pass as a parameter that user. Perfect. And then here it's already done. Another line of code, very simple as you can see, and we just add the user we found, passing as a parameter the name. We got that user, and then we add that user to our selected group. This completes all the tasks we had for today. Search for a group, search for a user, adding a user to an existing group, and get group details as well as user details. Thanks for watching.